We're going to be walking through how to waterproof a shower with GoBoard. And so the reason why I'm going with this is that it's a lot lighter than the cement board. It's a lot easier to cut. And when you look at the cost of it, it's honestly not that far off once you factor in the cost of the Red Guard or Aqua Defense membrane that you have to roll on. The way you do it, I haven't yet done it on this wall, is you first need to make sure that all of your studs are relatively plane with each other. So best way to do that is to take like a level that you know is flat, and then you just set the level on here, and you're checking to see if you've got any kind of stud sticking way too far out. And if you do, you're going to want to make sure that you plane it. So I've planed this one quite a bit in order to get it to sit flush, because this one was a bit proud. The next step is to basically just measure and cut. The reason why I did these two sides first is because just the way my studs work here, if I did this wall first, I would only have maybe like a quarter or a half inch to grab on those edges. In my case, when I bought these, I bought them at Lowe's. They're 27 bucks a board for a 3x5 foot section like this. They only sell these washers. I don't know why they didn't have the fasteners in stock, so that was a bit annoying. So I ended up actually running to Home Depot, and I got these, which were actually even cheaper, but they're ceramic coated screws and galvanized washers, and they're even a bit larger. So the ones that GoBoard recommends are 1.25 inches. These are actually 1.5 inches. So you get even more surface area to help kind of hold this thing against the wall and stop it from tearing. If you're not doing any kind of washer, your spacing needs to be every 8 inches. So 8 inches from each one of these along all of your studs. You got to have at least 16 inches on centers for those. And in my case, because you use washers, it does provide a lot more grabbing strength on these things, so you're able to increase your spacing from 8 inches to 12 inches. At most, every 12 inches, you need to have another one of these along a stud. While you're installing this thing, you do want to have an 1/8 inch gap. I just took like a paint mixer thingy in between boards. You want to aim for about that 1/8 inch gap all the way around, as well as on the walls on these sides. The follow-up is to come in with the caulk. This is the GoBoard Pro Sealant. These were about 10 bucks a tube, and the recommendation is for every board you're putting in, you should probably have a board of a tube of this. And then there are some spots like right here where as I was screwing in, the bit fell off the screw and stabbed the foam a little bit, which is okay as long as we make sure to still come in here and caulk that up. So yep, that's where we're at. We're gonna fill everything, and then the other thing is you also fill this whole space with the caulk sealant stuff that they give you. I'll show you guys how this looks along the way. If you want to be even smarter than I am, you can save yourself a bunch of effort by taking the board on the ground like this. And I've already marked where my two studs are. And I've also marked my spacing. So I've got 12-inch spacing between these guys. And I'm just going to stick all the washers in while we're here. So when it goes up, all I'm doing is putting screws in. I have a niche that I'm going to try to figure out. So my plan is to basically just put a whole board on, and I'm going to do some like marks with the pencil to just show myself where to cut this thing out, so I can just cut it out after the fact. And then I'll be able to use like the cutout to just be, this part against the wall here, so that I can save some materials. To do the cutout for the niche, I traced it onto this board, and I'm going to be using a oscillating saw to cut it out. It's just a normal drywall bit, so hopefully this works. And I have some wood underneath this just to protect the other sheets of drywall that I'm going to be putting in. But yeah, so let's see. Also, you saw it works pretty well. I did make a little boo-boo right here, but you know, we'll see. Obviously, I'm probably gonna need to shave it down a little bit here and there, but glad I was able to keep this in one piece. Okay, I've pushed on the washers with the 1 foot spacing. I might also throw in some additional ones in these corners, but I want to get this thing in first and trim it to fit the opening a bit better. But yeah, now we're gonna throw it up there. Now we're going to focus on the niche right here. And so to do that, I'm just shaving off the rough edges. You can kind of see it by the shadows along here, just to get a nice surface. I'm using an Alpha Japanese blade, which is super nice for this stuff. The next step will be to basically use the GoBoard sealant, which is also listed as an adhesive. And so we're going to be using that to bond the offcut that I have from this opening to here, and then I'll come in and we'll do some for the sides and the top part right up in here too. So I've got a torpedo level here, so we can see that that guy is very much sloped this way, so even though it's hard to see, water will want to roll this way and down the drain rather than pool in this area, and it's the same throughout. So we've got that slope that we want to have for the water to fall off. All right, so next up in our niche is I've cut out 3.5 inch long by, in my case it was 15 1/8 tall to fit in this guy. And you can see that there's a little gap there right now because this isn't sticking all the way down, but I'm gonna push this in and then I'm gonna use a fastener to hold this into that stud so it's pushing and basically keeping the back part of our niche against the drywall on the other side. And you can see that that's sitting nice and flush. So I'm just gonna do that there. Got another piece, we're gonna do that there. And then we're gonna do the top and bottom part of this. This is the finished product for the niche, and just double checking that we've still got a nice incline for this thing, so the water is definitely going to be rolling off that guy throughout this thing, which is cool. And then also around these edges you can see that that's pretty flush with all these pieces, so tiling shouldn't be too painful. So that is how you do it. This GoBoard caulk is definitely a lot thicker than what I'm used to from like, you know, drywall mud. So highly recommend metal corner blade as well as a 3, and I have a 6-inch blade. And I'm having some issues with these ones, especially on these washers, so I got to kind of double back over them to try to make sure I'm completely covering it as much as I can. Yeah, that's what it's looking like. Definitely a lot of work to waterproof an area. So it's now 10 o'clock at night, and just wrapping up here. It's definitely a lot harder to do this than I thought, but yeah, the actual waterproofing does take a lot more work than I thought it would. But basically every single screw, fastener, and because I used washers, I feel like I had to use a lot extra of the sealant, but had to hit all those to the point where you can't even see them anymore. Also, for every seam, you need to be at least 1 inch bigger on either side. So every single seam, I tried to make sure I was at least 1 inch bigger, especially in the niche, because I feel like when this water's coming down here, this is going to be a big area where it's going to get a lot of direct water content. Also going to get water sitting in these corners and stuff. So yeah, this is what it looks like. Definitely been a really long day. I am pretty tired, but I'm glad that the majority of the waterproofing is done here. So I think we can send this off to inspection.